to our meeting today, where we're going to talk about high school options. I have just a couple of announcements. One is that there might have been some confusion about book club. Book club is not after this meeting. This meeting goes way too long for that. It's after the next meeting. So those of you who haven't gotten the book yet, that Ms. Carter has chosen and is going to be discussing next time, Building Resilience in Children's and Teens, by Kenneth Ginsberg. You still have time to get it and come next week, 2 weeks, next meeting. Also, who came to the candidate forum? Anyone? Oh, wonderful. Okay, we had a good turnout, and it was very interesting. And the video is up on it's been circulated to the Keeling Community Listserv, and I will circulate the link on the next Hornet Herald. It was very informative. Everyone should watch it, and please encourage your friends to watch it. Very good. So, Robin's not here yet. Diane, would you like to give the Magnet Director's report?
Sure. Let's see. So, a couple of things that I'll just kind of share with you guys. One, back on October 13th, whatever the Monday was, the kids weren't here. We had some PD time. I just want to let you guys know we had some really valuable time together as a Magnet staff. That we spent the morning together as an entire Magnet faculty, and then let them split off into departments for the afternoon to get some work done. Just to kind of let you guys know, one of the things that stemmed from that is we're going to actually have a large group of teachers that help us out with the whole choice sheet process. In fact, I think that came up some 2 weeks ago with, how can we communicate some stuff better? Aside from our kids, our teachers are pretty much the smartest people on this campus. So they're going to definitely help us, I think, do a better job of communicating along the way. And I'm excited about that. The other thing we spent some time doing is as I've listened to different conversations, I've realized that, number one, you guys know, and I know, there's tons of absolutely amazing things going on. What I realized, though, is that, the science folks don't necessarily know what awesome things the English folks are doing. So that making links from department to department, and even grade level to grade level, isn't necessarily there. So we also started working through some things to start to spread those connections. And we've got a lot of teachers that are pretty pumped about that because, there's good stuff happening everywhere. And one last thing, old Ian's buddy of mine, who's one of the middle school principals there now, came to visit this week. I'm sure you guys can relate to the fact that sometimes you get so caught up in just your day-to-day getting stuff done that you forget just how amazing things are that are right in front of your face. Just visiting with him and walking around with him, and he's trying to make some changes in his world, and wanted to kind of check out some of the stuff we're doing, and it was invigorating for me to have that opportunity to walk around with some outside eyes and just remind myself of you guys, the instruction happening here is so good for kids. It is so good for kids, and I'm getting goosebumps. So anyway, I'll be quiet now because I know we've got lots to do today, but thank you guys for being here.
All right, so now we have our high school, greatly awaited, anticipated high school options talk. And I didn't tell our wonderful panelists in advance that they would be on video. So again, repeat for everyone here, we are on video. So we have Johanna Brown. Raise your hand, Johanna. Many of you may know her. She's a Keeling parent, and she also has 2 children at McCallum, a senior and a sophomore. So we have Beth Rowan to talk about Anderson, and you, Beth, you have a junior. Excellent. And we have Jane Bassett here also to talk about Anderson. And Jane is not even a Keeling parent, and she has taken time to come here and talk to us. So we really thank her especially. And she has a child in IB and one who graduated from IB.
Well, I have 4 children.
Oh,
so I have
wow.
two.
Okay.
I have 2 that graduated, and I have 3 that graduated. 1 was IB, and 1's currently IB.
Perfect.
But I have 4 that went through.
And also from Anderson, right? Liza Lane. Okay, and Liza, remind me.
I have a 10th grader at Anderson, so she hasn't started the IB program. So I'm glad there's somebody who can talk about IB.
Okay,
but she
perfect.
went
So
to
we have
Keeling.
lots of good information from Anderson, and we have Mary Elise Kelly, who has a sophomore at Lawson, right? And so I'm sure there are quite a few people in the audience who also have kids at these schools. So we'll hear from our panelists, and then if they're but necessarily they're not going to know the answer to every question, right? They only can speak from their personal experience, and I wouldn't pin them down too much on technical things like application requirements and stuff like that. We haven't asked them to do research in advance, and that information is probably best gotten from the school and from the showcases that will happen. But this is to give you an idea from the parent perspective, what it's like. So, and anyway, but if there are questions that they can't answer or things that other parents would like to add, you can just jump in at any time. So, all right, can we start? Mary Elise, will you start and just kind of give us a brief? They're just going to give us a brief summary of basically why their child chose the school that they did, and how is it going?
Okay, I have a sophomore at LASA, and she went through Keeling. Why she chose LASA? She loved Keeling, and when she went to visit LASA, she felt like it was kind of Keeling step 2. It felt very similar, it felt familiar, the things they do, the way they teach, it's a lot like Keeling. And I would say about 60% of her 8th grade class also went to LASA, so that appealed to her as well.
Thanks. And just continue on down. Beth?
Okay, my daughter actually is at Anderson, but she went to Murchison. So for her, it was the same kind of thing. It was a continuation of the friends that she went to. She went through school with. She's gotten very involved in the robotics program at Anderson.
Okay, so they have a strong robotics program.
They do.
So I have 4 kids, and so I don't want to steal the panel's entire time. I have 2 boys. We all went to Murchison. We looked at Keeling. We all chose to go to the neighborhood school where their friends were. We had a fabulous experience there, so I honor the decisions you've made, but it wasn't so bad at Murchison. And all 4 of them went to Anderson. My 2 oldest have graduated from college. And my 3rd child is a senior at UNC. She was an IB student at Anderson. And my 4th is a junior at Anderson and in the IB program. So I have 1 in and 1 out of IB. So, and 2 that chose not to do it. And all of them went to college. So.
Could you give just a little, how does the IB program work? I think it's of everything, it might be the thing that people know the least about around here.
So the International Baccalaureate program is a program in and of itself. It's not a program of the Austin Independent School District or anything. A school becomes IB accredited and delivers an IB diploma to its graduates where you're also graduating from Anderson High School. Once you're in the program, you'll take some separate courses, a separate set of exams. You actually have to earn that diploma. You're going to still graduate from Anderson, but you have to earn your IB diploma from your test scores, just like you get test scores from an AP class. But you have to pass all 6 exams. The IB program is only your junior and senior year. You have to apply to it and get into it. Your student does. I shouldn't say you. Your student has to apply and get into it. Usually at Anderson High School, there's 25 to 35 IB diploma students that graduate. And remember, Anderson's a school of 2,200 now, so about 1% of the school graduate with an IB diploma student. So it's a tough road. You can take IB classes, you're considered an IB certificate student. I think you can take two or three. I mean, you can take them and not get the diploma. What's the difference? One of the classes that your student has to take as an IB student is called Theory of Knowledge. Everybody wants to take it. Only IB diploma students get to take it. It's a very different kind of class. It's all discussion and talking, Socratic seminars, summits. It's looking at interdisciplinary thinking and discussion across, how do we combine what we've learned in biology with what we're learning in English. Let's study something about economics and have a global warming summit as a set of students. Their Socratic seminar formula in that class is very formal. I was reading to Beth about it, my daughter. I sent her all these questions last night, and I said, so tell me what these Socratic seminars are. I never sat in one. I always knew it was a big deal to prepare for them, and it's not like they do it once, because I know your Keeling students have done it. They do them like weekly. I mean, these kids are up all night reading articles and journals and figuring out what they're going to say to make a difference in the class, because it's pretty much all participative and discussion. And they sit in two concentric circles. The kids on the inside of the circle are discussing the topic, the interdisciplinary knowledge, what they think, what they learn. They're refuting, they're presenting facts, they're debating. The kids on the outside of the conference are watching the students across from them on the inside of the conference and reflecting on presentation style, whether they, were correct in what they said, how others responded to their way of thinking. The teacher is really just there as a moderator. They're not there to teach. They're letting the students teach each other. The students have done the preparation. So they're very challenging because everyone needs to have a voice. And the concept's usually something that bridges more than one discipline. They do lots of writing. One of the things that my daughter was really clear about is, we all worry about AP exams. She took a lot of AP classes, and she said it's just a different kind of learning. And your AP classes are teaching facts and depth of knowledge on a particular subject and asking you to know a lot about it and to prove yourself so that you don't have to take that subject in college. The IB classes, you can't pass all the AP exams if you take IB classes because it's a different kind of learning. They're reading the original Communist Manifesto, they're reading the Magna Carta, they're reading the original works of the period when those documents were written to understand what the public thinking was. Like what history says happens is different than what the public was thinking at the time. So they're learning to learn and research in the period and then what's happened in history since. And so the IB exams at the end of the year are what they call papers. They're all writing. They're formal papers that are written. So the one thing I'll tell you is my daughter came out of that program writing better than any high school student that I knew, except for her 25 counterparts in the IB program. And she's felt like that was a real asset to her in college. She's also felt that this style of learning is more what's expected of her at the college level, and she said she entered college feeling like she was a sophomore or a junior in college because of the style of learning from the IB program. Is it challenging? Yes. Will your kids spend a lot of time studying? Yes. Can they do other things? This particular daughter was an officer on the Trojan Bells. I don't know if you guys know who they are, but they're a pretty time-intensive dance team. She was Spanish Honor Society, a National Honor Society officer, and she was an active kid. The other thing I really like about the IB program is they have a community service element. It's called CAS. It stands for Creativity, Action, and Service. And so they're expected to put in a certain number of community service hours over their 2 years. They actually have to present them all together as a CAS project at the end of the year, at the end of their senior year. And they're not just asking them to log hours, like some community service are. And it's great to go out there and do things all over the community and log some hours, but they're asked the creativity, action, and service piece means you've chosen to do service, so, but how are you gonna creatively offer something to something that you're passionate about in the community? And how do you need to train yourself? What do you need to learn? So part of their logging hours is the Spanish class, or Spanish conversational thing they did in the community, so they would be more effective working down at Manos de Cristo. Part of it is, you know, who they're helping and why, and maybe how those things that they volunteered at link together in terms of who they are and who they are as an individual contributing to the community. My daughter was an incredibly busy student, the one who did this. She chose several organizations, but one of the ones she spent a lot of time with was called the Linus Project. They deliver blankets to fire victims and neonatal units in the hospital and stuff like that. Well, she was on buses going to dance competitions, and she didn't have time always to do something on a Saturday. So she went to meetings for that and did sorting and delivering and stuff, but she also made blankets. And she learned, she could crochet and knit and do stuff. So she did those things on buses and in her free time and in meetings, and then worked to, with the organization to donate things, and even got to know people in the community that quilted and did stuff, and actually helped other people donate to her cause, which is really a part of what we're trying to teach our kids about being active in a program. The other thing, I guess, that's a flagship of the IB program is that they all write what's called the extended essay. So they basically write a thesis. And it's a big thesis. It's a 4,000-word thesis. They get to pick whether it's science or history or what they want to do their research on. They're expected to research original works. They're expected to interview and talk to people. We've all done it. It's pretty intense. At the end of the year, as a parent, you get a list of the 30 essays that were written. And, I consider myself educated. I've got several degrees. I read the titles and thought, seriously? I mean, these came out of high school students. It is amazing what those kids do. I mean, the knowledge base of the kids that graduate from that program is astounding. Should you all run and sign up for it? My personal recommendation is it's your kid's choice. It is a lot of work. You're a different kind of student. And at the end of the year, when everybody's having fun as a senior, your student is finishing their extended essay. They're preparing for IB papers, which other exams. They'll also be taking some AP exams, and they're working really hard. And so they're not playing in the last semester of their senior year, at least my child wasn't. My current student, she comes home from school, puts on her headphones, crosses her legs in a chair, and has her books in her lap, and I go to bed before she does every single night. It's a lot of work to be an IB student. The daughter that's graduated, when I asked her, would you do it again? She said yes, because I entered college knowing having been a college student already. I learned how to use study groups, I learned how to make friends academically, and my free time was in calculus study groups, physics study groups. So, I mean, it's an impressive program, so I would consider it for all of you who've been here. Maybe Anderson's a big, strange place, and I could talk about that too, but we actually have enjoyed it, and it's not something I feel like you have to do. I think it's something that your student should consider and look into.
Wow, Jane, what a great summary. I'm just
Yeah.
watching Liza the whole time thinking, is your child ready for this?
Well, I was just gonna add, Eleanor, so she's in 10th grade and she has not yet started any of this, so I'm interested to hear about it. But really, she chose to do the IB program, I think for a lot of the reasons that have been explained. She really was interested in the heavy writing component, but we'll see how it goes when we get there next year. One thing I wanted to add is we're not tracked to Anderson, so if you are tracked to Anderson, you don't have to choose the IB program until 10th grade. The students apply in 10th grade to enter the program. But if you're not tracked to Anderson, the students actually apply in 8th grade and then are admitted into the IB program, even though they don't start any of the classes until 11th grade. So she's been admitted. She has a curriculum transfer to go to Anderson, but she hasn't actually started the program yet. And I also wanted to mention that on the same night as the Keeling Magnet Showcase at Anderson, there's an IB Experience program. That's on January 15th at 7 o'clock. And that's a great opportunity because you get to hear from current students who are actually doing the IB diploma, to hear from them. So I would definitely recommend, if you're thinking about it, to attend that.
Thank you. Now we'll go back to Johanna Brown, who's going to talk about McCallum.
Okay, we have a senior at McCallum, and he went to Keeling, and in his 8th grade year, most of his friends decided to go to LASA, and he got into LASA and made a compelling argument to my husband and me about playing basketball for McCallum, which is our neighborhood school. And he said, if I go to LASA, I won't get to play ball. So we,
And why did you think that?
Because there's some really great basketball players at LBJ and LASA. And so he said, instead of sitting on the bench for 4 years, I want to play. And so we agreed, and that was great. And he made varsity as a sophomore at McCallum. He's now 6'4" and started for the basketball team. Loves it. And McCallum's been a great school. And then our second child, Margot, who is Eleanor's friend, all of that group was going different places, and she wanted to be with her brother. And we'd had a great experience at McCallum, and thought, that's great. They could both be in the same place, and be easier for us. And they are just doing the straight McCallum program. They're not in the fine arts strand. But I do, and I can go over that later, I do have some information for fine arts. And Kristen, isn't your daughter in fine arts?
Yes,
So,
my daughter is a freshman in the dance program.
yeah, and I do have some dates and stuff that we can go over later if you all are interested in applying for fine arts. But anyway, that's kind of been.
Okay, well, we'll open it up for questions now. Yolanda?
You said your children are in the regular program. How accessible are the fine arts classes to the students who are not part of the fine arts program?
They're very accessible. In
Can you
fact,
repeat the question?
how accessible are the electives if you're not in the fine arts strand? And they are accessible and available. And they are required to take fine arts electives. I believe it's 2 during their 4 years. One of the things about playing sports is you are what they call double blocked for PE and a sport, so that counts as an elective. So it kind of limits your fine arts electives. But both of our kids have taken film, tech theater, photography. I'm trying to think what else, but they are allowed to take any of those classes if it fits into their
Are
schedule.
you familiar with the music program?
Um,
I just wondered if you're in band or you're in orchestra, but you're not part of the fine arts program, can you still participate, or do you?
yeah, I believe so.
Yes,
That's-
you can.
Yeah.
And can I just add something?
Sure.
So there are some fine arts electives that are majors only. Like there are special dance classes that are just for majors, but then there are other dance classes that are open to any students. And like Joanna said, it's a little tricky because, excuse me, your classes are more prescribed. And so you might be limited by your schedule. But there's, they're definitely open to everybody, other than certain classes that are specifically for majors.
And you have to look at the specific strand that your child is interested in. My daughter is a junior at McCallum, and she was in band, and we figured out when she applied that she didn't need to be in the fine arts program at all to be in band, so she decided to go regular because the only thing that it got her to be in the fine arts program and be in band was that she had to take extra classes. She had to take piano and music theory. So since the bands are unified, I don't know if this is the same for orchestra, I think it might be, but because the bands are all unified, nothing changes if you're in fine arts. So you really have to look at, each particular strand. Yes?
Do you have to be in marching band to be in the fine arts program if you're in band?
Yes, if you are in the fine arts program, that's another requirement. Yes, you have to march.
And if you're not?
You don't have to march.
Can I respond to that from Anderson? 'Cause
Yes.
It's very different. So if you're, I have band students. The one that's an IB student is a marching band, and I've had 3 in marching band. At Anderson, if you want to march, that's the big thing. You have to be in the band program, which they have 4 levels of band that are really well. But it's sort of the opposite. That if you're in band, you have to march at one, but if you want to march, you have to be in band. Is sort of the way it is at Anderson, which is interesting because they're highly competitive with their marching band program, and so sometimes the kids are like, I'm so academically intense, I don't have time to do as much band as everyone wants. They're like, well, if you want to march, you also have to have that background. So, I'm sorry.
Jane, are you saying that at Anderson you can be in band but not march?
Yes.
That's opposite of what somebody told me. That will make my son very happy. It's not a march.
In the back?
Yeah, so you've talked about all the fine arts at McCallum, but what about academics, particularly, because Joanne, you have a senior now? Can you talk about that?
The academics are really great. I know that when all these kids leave the magnet program at Keeling, they're so well prepared. I mean, both of our kids went into McCallum, and when Harrison was there as a freshman, he really felt like a lot of what he was doing, while it was somewhat challenging, was a review. I think the Keeling teachers, again, are just so remarkable that they prepare these kids very well. And the academics, as they move on, become more challenging, and they offer, AP classes. The English department is, I think, a little, as I'm finding from our kids, a little hidden treasure. They are really doing well with the English department. A couple of things as far as classes go. Harrison thinks he wants to do computer science, engineering for college, and right now McCallum does not have any computer science classes. So he went to one of the math teachers and said, I want to start a computer science club, and we need a computer science class. We can't have these kids going to college, especially in the day and age where computer science is so important. So he has sent a letter to the PTSA, and now there are 3 teachers who are going to volunteer in the spring to teach a computer science class, trying to get grant money, and he's started a computer science club. I think there are 4 kids, and they're working on writing code, and he's at home at night teaching himself and taking a Harvard MOOC for some computer science that I don't really quite understand. But anyway, what the point of that is that teachers at McCallum, and I'm sure at these other schools too, are so willing to help the students, and if the students want something and are willing to ask, then the sky's the limit. And so that's something that's encouraging. But as far as, the rigor, I believe they can get what they need. Harrison's, I guess I could be a bragging parent, is graduating at the top of the class, I think 2 or 3 maybe, and is going, applying to colleges. He will go to school after high school. So, I think, it's been a great experience academically.
When you said the review in the freshman year, did you feel like you did get some new stuff then?
Oh, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was goofing off every afternoon, but he did feel like, a lot of it was kind of a repeat, or reinforcement, I guess, you know, which kind of, at first for me was a little bit, I guess, alarming, so I don't know, because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I mean, is this really a good fit? Because they're, you know, I mean, I'm so used to the Keeling rigor and, you know, not a lot of time for, you know, I don't know. Well, and he was a very active child. I mean, he was involved in a lot of other things. He's an Eagle Scout and sports and all of that, so he was doing other things, but it was really a lot more time than I was used to. So, but sophomore year picked up, and, you know, and it's been challenging, I think.
Well, I can add to that. I mean, we're only 9 weeks into it, but my daughter's a freshman. Her electives are driven by the Fine Arts Academy, which if you are an Academy student, your electives will be largely Academy related. So she's taking 2 dance classes this year. Next year it'll just be 1. And then her PE is she's doing Blue Brigade. Loves it, loves it, loves it. That's the drill team. It's been a fantastic experience. Math, Kate's in Algebra 2, and you know, math is sequential, so it's Algebra 2, and she's, I think, feeling challenged but not overwhelmed. Science, at least for freshmen, is probably the weakest link that I can see. Her teacher, anyway, I won't say anything personal, but it's not loss of science. My daughter did not want loss of science. Kids that are wanting to, you know, go pre-med or nuclear engineering might really want to take a close look at the science programs that the different schools offer. But like Johanna said, I think for kids, you know, that are interested in, you know, they have robotics, they're getting computer engineering. English has been great. Their reading list gives me a headache. They're doing the Odyssey right now. They have to do Richard III. It's been very, very good as far as I'm concerned. World Geography, her teacher is fabulous. I can't speak for the whole department, but I mean, her teacher, back to school night, it was like, wow, I feel at home. This is just like a Keeling teacher. He's young and enthusiastic and, you know, took 30 history classes in college. And so, I mean, I'm feeling like it's a very solid academic background. And what my child loves about McCallum is it's solid, but it's not overwhelming to the point where she can do Blue Brigade, she can do the dance team, she's joined Young Life, and I mean, I know that other schools have great clubs and activities as well. I think it's very student specific as to what kind of experience they're wanting, and so my take at this point is that McCallum has a very strong academic program, and it is a very well-rounded sort of, I mean, they do have the Fine Arts Academy, so that it is very fine arts heavy at the school, but it's also just kind of your all-American high school experience, and it's a good education. It's, you know, it's different from LASA, it's different from Anderson, but it's just kind of an all-American, well-rounded, and it's a sweet school. It's little, it's diverse.
What's the class size?
I believe the total student body is right under 1,700, so I couldn't.
It's lower.
Is it lower?
Yeah, this year they lost, I think Harrison's class lost 50 kids just to, you know, demographic changes and
Yeah.
the changing economic situation of Austin, so they
Yeah.
lost it.
I think the count on the senior class this year is like 375 or something
Yeah.
like that. Is where
Yeah.
they're using for
Yeah, it went from, yeah,
50 down to 375. I felt really proud since they were freshmen.
yeah.
Laura?
If we're talking about sizes, just so people can understand, LASA is growing, and that's actually an issue. They had 965 last year, they have 1,000 this year overall in the school. And the LBJ Early College Readiness Program, that's a separate school that's in the same campus, also has about 1,000. So it has overall 2,000, and they share UIL together, so sports, orchestra, band, theater, all that is LBJ LASA. PTSA also.
How do you say it's growing, but that's the most, they're at the.
They're at the top.
I mean,
They're
top
done.
capacity wise, so it's not like it's gonna get bigger.
Right, it can't get bigger, that's an issue actually.
Becky?
So we've talked about some of the options that we have in AISD. We've talked about the IB program, we've talked about LASA, we've talked about the Fine Arts Academy. I know there's a global studies program at Austin High, but I also feel like I'm missing others. So what others are there in Austin ISD? Besides all of our own hometown, not hometown, but the vertical that we would normally feed into. Is there anything else besides global studies, and does anyone have experience with that?
Well, Reagan has an early college program.
And Richards
Right.
for girls.
What is the,
Atkins has like academies, they have 5 different academies.
Is it Travis, culinary institute?
Yeah. And
It's, I couldn't say, and maybe Ms. Carter, some of the programs are application-based and some are transfer-based. So everybody might not know that at this moment in time, Keeling students can get a tracking transfer to McCallum if that's not your home school, because of some weird rule that McCallum is the tracking school for Keeling Middle School. So if your student has been here, I think at least 2 years, right now, they can get a tracking transfer to McCallum. Other high schools are open to general transfers, but we won't have that information until a little later in the semester, and that'll be covered at a PTA meeting. Transfers, but then there's various application-based programs.
I think last year at this meeting, one of the parents said that you can't do the global studies program at Austin High unless you're tracked for that.
That's
school.
true.
That's right.
That is
It's true.
true.
So as a transfer.
But there's certain people who can transfer there, like remember last year, if you were a Blackshear student, you were able to, there were certain people, but I doubt if anybody in the
Oh, you're saying there were like certain sectors?
certain sectors of the AISD, so, yeah.
And every year they have that. It's, if your home school is more minority than majority, you can go to this high school because this year it's more majority than minority. It's all these very complicated based on where you live and the demographics, and it changes every year.
right, and I guess I didn't mean to open a can of worms on
No, it's
everything,
fine.
but I just want, I've heard global studies, I've heard that, and I've heard it used to be anyone who wanted, now I hear it's lottery. What's the benefit of it?
Becky, we had that last year. We had a parent who spoke about global studies. I believe he was a Keeling parent. And honestly, we didn't have, nobody had any questions for him last year. There wasn't any interest, so we decided not to. But you know what? The video's still up on our website, so you can watch it and see if that gives you some good info.
And I think
Yeah, I think the other problem is that school particularly, you have to be zoned for Austin
Right.
High. So I think, like the other schools, at least there's an application process, whereas the Austin High, if you don't go there, well, it doesn't apply to you. So I think that was the other issue
Right,
that we had last year.
I don't have direct,
I don't have direct experience with the Global Studies program, but I have talked to somebody whose kid is there, and they said it's a very small, sweet program, and I've heard it's not academically particularly overwhelming. It's more that they're really trying to create this experience of we're part of this huge world. So they go and, to different countries and do different programs together and things like that. So that's my understanding. The last thing I heard about it.
I feel like we've had some really great reviews on McCallum and Anderson. I'd like to hear more about LASA in particular. I'd like to know if you're going to still get that well-rounded high school feel going to LASA, or are you going to be
Studying all the time?
So I'd
Okay.
like to hear more about LASA if that's okay.
Absolutely. My daughter is on the lacrosse team at LASA. She plays for a travel lacrosse team in the city. She is also working on her Gold Award for Girl Scouts. She's a member of the Jam Club at LASA.
They're making jam?
They're making jam. Yeah. One of the really cool things about LASA is if you can find a teacher sponsor, and you can always find a teacher sponsor, and if you can find 2 or 3 students and you're interested in forming a club, you can form whatever club you would like to form. So the Jam Club, they meet once a month in the art room with the Bunsen burners, and they make jam. So they bring the fruit, and then at the end of the year they have a jam contest, and the teachers get to judge which jam is the best, and then they all get to eat it. So
Is there a bread club?
There's a knitting club. She's also a member of Cake Club, which they bake Thursday nights, and they take cakes and cookies to school on Friday. And if your fourth period class has donated enough cans that week, you get to have cake and cookies. If you haven't, you don't get any. So, she works hard, but she has a life. It's kind of like she was at Keeling. I mean, she studies, she works hard, she works in the car, but she's not up till midnight. You know, I would say my kiddo goes to bed about 10, which is, I would say, normal for a high school kid. She loves it. She feels like she fits in. It's been a great experience.
Is she in the band at all?
She is not in the band. She does sports, but she has lots of friends who are in the band. And I think marching band can be fairly time consuming, but yeah, I don't know. Rachel, do you have anything? Rachel has a swimmer.
I have a swimmer, early mornings practice, but she's in bed by 10:30 every night. She comes home, she's very disciplined, and she kind of gets right to it, and she has time to go do things after
With her
school.
friends,
She's in
yeah.
yearbook, so she was working late there last night, and they have lots of, I would
fun.
say it's a very great high school experience.
It's a great
Very,
environment.
Very well-rounded, lots of people, parents involved, teachers involved. They work closely with the kids.
It's a small school, so they tend to all know each other, which is nice.
Yes. So it's been great. I agree with everything Mary Lee said.
Can you speak to I don't fully understand that LASA versus LBJ. Like, are they?
They're two
there's
completely
not-
separate schools.
Okay.
They have a separate administration, they have separate counseling staff. LASA is application only, LBJ is tracking. They do mix for sports, for band, orchestra, drama.
Any UIL.
And UIL
Fire
competitions and
Academy.
things. Fire Academy, which is one of the electives.
Art classes or not?
Sometimes art classes. They even have separate lunches. I mean, it really is separate school.
I was gonna add on the lunch thing, I think that, that's a big element that allows the kids to know each other and sort of really contributes to the culture. They actually have an hour for lunch every day because, and it was student driven several years ago, because the kids come from all over and they need to get back on the bus and leave when school's over, so they created this extended lunch so kids can hang out together. So they do all their club meetings then, for the most part, unless it's like
Yes.
special events, like we're going to some competition or something. So they sit and they can eat anywhere, outside, inside, and so you just group up, and the clubs are a big like mechanism for lunch groupings because they meet during lunch. And so there's like the Pixar Club, and they watch Pixar movies and eat their lunch together, and there's small groups and there's big groups, and you
And
know,
you
a
go
lot
at
of them,
lunchtime and
like,
you
the
see
quiz
them
bowl people
everywhere.
get together every day and do quiz bowl, and they love that. But other people are doing something else or just sitting outside or whatever.
And the
So-
teachers all obviously have lunch at the same time, so if they need to meet with the teachers are always available during that time.
Yeah,
which
they're in the room.
Makes it easier,
Like
they don't
my
have to stay
child
after
last year
school.
did Casino Club, with
Yeah.
one of the math teachers, and they play poker every day to their lunch. And sometimes he puts like statistical things on the board of like your chances of getting like a full house or whatever. So there's a lot of options.
Laura? I just wanted to explain the separation of the schools because it's a little awkward. So 7 years ago, they were all together and it was a science academy. They separated because LBJ was able to get $2 million in grant money by separating. It's sort of like Keeling here. Sometimes the neighborhood program may get masked some of the needs because of the magnet kids. That was going on there. So they separated and then were able to get more funding for LBJ. But it's a constant, I mean, it's an issue, right? It's just like Keeling where you've got two different types of programs going on and always trying to figure out how to be doing the best job at working together, you know. So I just wanted to say a couple other things because I have two boys at LASA who both went to Keeling. I have a junior there and a freshman, and I just adore that school. I think it is the most amazing place, and I'm so happy we have it. It's probably my favorite thing of all Austin because, you know, the clubs are not only fun like Jam and K Club, but my son has done, you know, gone to the History Bowl that meets, they won the National History Bowl competition. Quiz Bowl is amazing. They have a math club that does national competitions that are, McCallum is a wonderful place. If your child is really intense in math, LASA is the place for him or her because they go so much further and so much more classes. So it's just an incredible place. if your kid is like, if academics is sort of a hobby for them, that's kind of what LASA is in that the kids, yes, they work really hard, and maybe it's just the peer group that my kids hang out with, but not only do they work really hard, they enjoy it. During carpool, they're talking about their classes, their time, and it's like, it's fun for them to be, the positive peer pressure is to do, you know, to enjoy their work even more. And one thing I really love that they have there too is wellness counselors that are not only guidance counselors, but they also are doing groups for stress relief and all kinds of things, because they said that they don't have bullying there like you would see in a typical high school. It's such a different kind of dynamic where everybody's accepted, and it's really a very, you know, it's sort of this nerdy type of place where people are not ostracized too much. But there is a feeling sometimes of kids like, oh, well, I did that in 20 minutes. It took you longer. You know what I mean? There's sometimes a little bit of that type of thing that goes on there. So, but I really loved the fact that to go from Keeling, where I was worried about my freshman enjoying LASA, he was like, oh, it's so much better there because of the hour-long lunch and because it starts later. They start their day at 8:15. You can take a Keeling bus that'll bring you here first and then go to LASA, but if you do carpool, your kid gets more sleep. It's a huge difference because they do need their sleep. So they get out at 3:45. And I also, both of my sons played baseball, so you're able to do, and it's actually, they don't cut anybody from the baseball team, so basketball may be harder at McCallum, but baseball is easier than McCallum. I mean, I shouldn't say it's not
You didn't say that.
I didn't.
I was just gonna add that I know that LASA has that reputation for just like all the work, and I was gonna say, I think it tends to draw kids who, for their electives, load up with some heavy duty classes, but it doesn't have to be that way. You know, you can pick the lighter, more fun classes for your electives so you don't end up with this huge load. I mean, you can negotiate with your child and try to push them that way, but that's one thing to think about. And the other thing I was gonna mention that's unique about LASA is they have these signature courses, freshman and sophomore year, which freshman year is science technology class. It's basically engineering, and then the other semester is e-zine, which is developing a real electronic magazine, and they meet every day, and it's one course credit. But the neat thing about this, and then the sophomore year is Planet Earth, which is this whole earth science thing where they're out in the field, they do a huge field study project, and then the other semester is like a philosophy humanities.
It's called Great Ideas.
Great ideas, great thinking. But one neat part about those classes is, one, they're a little lighter, I think, than your core classes. But most of them are, whether you like it or not, team work, and you're put with groups. You're just assigned to groups usually that you don't know. And so you're working with people that you probably didn't go to school with, from other neighborhoods, etc. So it's really like a good mechanism to get to know people and to, you know, build the community and integrate. So.
The other thing I'd add to that is, like, the science technology class is a class that my daughter would never have taken.
Right.
Ever have signed up for it, and she ended up loving it and doing really well in it, much to her great surprise. So I think setting up those signature courses and kind of having them on opposite ends of the interest spectrum is really good to expose kids who might always sort of tend to go the same direction to explore something else. So I thought that was great that they forced her to do that. Yes, sir?
You know, everything is very positive, everybody loves each school. But what I'm trying to figure out is, what kind of student doesn't make it at LASA? Or would have a hard time in the IB program? I mean, your kids sound like they're, I mean, you know, 4 kids, I would be drinking at 8 in the morning. I'm on video, sorry.
It's okay, I only got you.
I really think that your kid has to drive the decision.
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's the best thing that my pediatrician ever told me. When my oldest was in 5th grade at Mills, and I was saying, should she apply to Keeling? Is this a good idea? Would you think that we're going to go across town? It's so far away. She has to take a bus. And she's like, Mary Elise, this is not your decision. She needs to go, and she needs to see what it's like, And she gets to call the shots on that one. And she went to a Keeling information night, she fell in love. And that was it. She said, Mom, I'm going to Keeling. And that's exactly what she did for LASA. She went there, she said, this is the place I want to go. And she knew that she could do it. But it was completely driven by her.
Can I just echo the same thing, that the principal at LASA says the kids who are not successful are the ones whose
parents want them to go.
That their parents were pushing them to do it. That is a huge mistake. If your child does not want to do the level of work at LASA, do not push them.
I was gonna say, the LASA principal is very committed to supporting the students, and she says, like, if you wanna come here and you get in, we will stand by you, and they have study skills classes, she'll set you up with counselors.
The counseling
Like,
staff is
very
amazing.
concrete support for people, she wants people to succeed.
Yeah, I know someone who went to LASA freshman year and then decided that it was not a good fit, and so now is at McCallum for his sophomore year and is doing wonderfully. So, even if you can get in, sometimes, you discover it's not for you. My daughter, after Keeling, knew that LASA was not going to be for her, and despite the fact that all of her friends were going there, she picked McCallum, and it was a very smart choice.
I'm trying to figure out the pros and cons of rather than be one-sided where, I understand it's child specific, so, although kids are kids, you have to guide them, otherwise you might as well just give birth and then.
I can tell you something just from our experience. I think looking at my daughter, she would not be happy at LASA, and a big part of that, she would hate me saying this in front of a group on okay. She's very competitive. She has her goal. She wants to be #1 in her class, which is not necessarily a healthy goal. But I think for my child, she felt like she could experience more success as she defines it at McCallum. She doesn't love to learn. She doesn't love to talk about math. She wants to win. And so I think part of it, she felt like she could have more of that kind of success at McCallum. And the other thing is she wanted a social life. And as a parent, the first month, I thought, oh my God, we made a huge mistake, because it was a little, it was a big adjustment for us as parents. We're sheltered here at Keeling. They're at school, they're at home, they're studying, they're at school, they're doing volleyball or whatever, and it was all of a sudden, somebody's having a party and somebody's doing this, and I feel like that's more of the culture at McCallum than it might be at LASA. I could totally be wrong. So, that's maybe a con as a parent. We've kind of worked through it in the first 9 weeks.
No, but that's helpful.
And there might be kids who are just bored at McCallum because they can't do advanced quantum physics, calculus, or whatever it is,
I guess I want to echo that it would be, that it's really important that the decision come from your kids. This is the baby step to choosing a college, y'all. You're choosing a high school, and you're really fortunate that in Austin you have choices. But you're going to have amazing choices, astounding choices when your kids look at colleges. And it's a really complicated process. And I think the most important key to my kids' success was asking them what feels good to you. Because you're going to ask yourself that as you start to take them to college campuses and ask them what they want to do with the rest of their life and what they really want to be when they grow up. Because you're hoping that their answer isn't that they're going to live in your house and you're going to make decisions for them. So I think all of these choices are incredible and astounding academic opportunities. I think you have to give your kids a chance to say, I think you were talking about, these are my people. This is what feels really comfortable. I really want to dance, so I want to be here. I had a dancer, one of the top dancers at Anderson. She went to Anderson. She wanted to be a Trojan Belle. We looked at McCallum. She made a decision based on a whole lot of other, academic choices and, what was there. The clubs that are available to kids at all the different schools. I was listening to what you were saying and saying, Anderson has that, Anderson has that,
Yeah.
Anderson has that.
Yeah,
So
McCallum,
it's
yeah.
really cool. I think you're going to find that a lot of these the things that people brought up are elements of great teaching staffs in all these schools. So a lot of it's like, you know, what is my child's slant? So I need to present them with the best opportunities they have, but please let them make the choice. Because my kids would not have been successful in IB if they hadn't chosen to do it. Because I said to my daughter, I don't think you have time. You're at school at, you know, you're up at 5 a.m. and dancing, and how are you going to do this? And all you had to do is throw the gauntlet down, and she was like, well, let me show you how I'm going to do it. And she chose to do it, and she was successful. And my other kids, you know, wanted to play lacrosse, wanted to do marching band, said, I really want to be a great student, but I'm going to take AP courses to do it. And, you know, they all got into great colleges. So I'm not worried about Anderson being a big school, if that's what you're thinking about, because, oh my gosh, how many of you went to A&M or UT and are thinking you're going to send your kids to schools that have more than 50,000 students? I mean, your kids are capable of navigating whatever high school, because they're certainly going to have to navigate college. So, I mean, teach them to make that independent decision and listen to them is what I would encourage you to do.
And I guess I would encourage the independent thing as well, because I think sometimes at Keeling, you know, the kids, I mean, of course, there's a lot of things that go around, and a lot of the kids are talking to each other, and sometimes I sense that there's, you know, that everybody's doing this, or everybody's doing this, or this is what people say. And so, you know, right now I'm facing with my second child, I think because my first child went to McKellum, there's a big pull because that's what she knows. And so my tack is to really say you need to go to at least find out about these other schools. You cannot base your decision on things that you do not know and just things that you are hearing second or third hand. So that's, I guess, what I'm focusing on to, you know, I will absolutely let her make the decision, but I'm going to insist that she have full information from the source, not from second or third hand.
I was going to add to that, I would really encourage people to take advantage of the shadowing and visit opportunities. I know Anderson lets you come for the morning, I think, if you're trying to do the IB program, and I don't know all the options, lots that you can shadow. Because, I mean, it's one thing to see things on paper and have your parents say, I found these things out, blah, 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 blah. And they have no reference points, they haven't been to high school. But when they can spend some time around some of the people, like go to the showcase, go to the road shows.
So shadowing's available at LASA?
Yes.
Yeah, and then what I was, at LASA, a really great thing is the road shows. I think it's so much better personally than the showcase in terms of actually getting information. And they have students there, you can talk, it's more of a presentation, you can ask questions, the admin's there and students and teachers. But if they can start to see like where they're comfortable and they get that gut sense and then get the buy-in and all that kind of stuff. So you don't want to find out for the first time at the first day of school.
Standing up?
Yeah, thanks. So one thing that came up, one of my friend's daughters just graduated from LASA last spring, and she talked a lot about the guidance counselor and just being amazing at LASA and really helping guide her child find the right school. Do you have any experience in McCallum or Anderson with the counselors and how I had a terrible college guidance counselor. I mean, yeah, in high school, but that's why, you know, it really jumped out at me when my friend said how much she helped her daughter. I was just curious.
She said like there's one, Jamie Cochane, all she does is college.
Yeah, is there somebody at the other schools?
Well, there is one at McCallum who is the college counselor, Nancy Natardi. She's also the golf coach, and she's just incredible. And I know Anderson has some as well.
And you have if you're an IB student, there's an IB counselor, just because, you know, it's just a different program and it has to follow some slightly different rules because it's an international program. But then they have college counselors. They have access to a huge pool of counseling, and my kids have usually established a relationship with, you know, one that they're comfortable with. It doesn't always have to be the one you're assigned to because a lot of them have different specialties, and we've really found them valuable.
So there's only one person doing that?
Well, there's one at McCallum who's college. Now the other grade level, they separate it by alphabet, so they have A through D, so you don't have a choice as to who your counselor is, but, and that's the one you stick with the whole time. However, they all are able to help, if you have questions.
Well, I'm just amazed at some of these college counselors that have helped, sort of scholarships, some of them seem to have
Yeah.
helped these kids. It's just
Well,
wonderful.
and Coach Natardi is all over that. I mean, we've been seeing that, having junior and senior high school, that she's very adept at all that. In fact,
So-
she teaches classes, hosts classes for college.
We do need to wrap it up. We promised our speakers an hour.
Thank you.
So do we have one more question?
Can I just
Any
say,
or
you don't
something
have
to add?
march at Lawson. If you're in the marching
Yeah,
band,
you
you
don't
don't
have
have
to
to march. And also, it's far east, so if you live south, it's a huge pain
It's
to
a
get
long,
there.
oh yeah, we live in Circle C, Southwest Austin. It is a long way, but there's a bus.
And like half the people live that far.
Oh,
south,
but
which
there's
is
like
ridiculous,
5 buses that come from our area, I think, right, Rachel, something like that. Huge.
What time is that bus?
It's the same time as the Keeling bus. She rides the same bus as my son. She comes to Keeling,
Sure.
she gets on a transfer bus and goes to Lawson.
I should point out really quickly, if your child is feeling like the McCallum program would be their second choice to either the McCallum Fine Arts Academy or LASA or Anderson, you need to go ahead and apply for that. Apply for the tracking transfer in January if it's not your home school, because that deadline is before you'll get admission decisions.
Yeah, and that's on the AISD website. They have complete information. It's a little complicated, but it is early January, so I
How
would,
about Anderson?
I would be on it.
And how about Anderson?
They accept transfers, do
Well,
they?
Anderson was my home school, so I'm not sure.
There's no automatic transfer
You
for
can
you.
apply
have
at
to
any rate,
apply.
right?
Just
Yeah,
a
if you're-
IBA, A.
So it would be an application.
You apply for, if it's
Based.
not your
Right.
home school, then you apply for a curriculum transfer, and that is due, I wanna say, I don't know the exact dates, I wanna say end of January, and they let you know about the same time as Lawson.
I have some information about the IB program, so.
Well, and the only other thing I wanted to say about the Fine Arts Academy is there on the website, there's a prospective students tab, and since both of our kids did not go through the Fine Arts, there's some deadlines for applying for auditions, and there's also tours starting this week through the 8th of December, 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. every Monday. It's free, but you do need to register just so, it's open to everybody. And then there's an audition portfolio workshop for your student if she or he is interested, and that's December 13th. And then the application deadline is January 16th. But all the information is on the McCallum tab.
Thanks, Johanna. Thanks to all of you. You were wonderful. Thanks so much for your time. We have about just 5 more minutes to wrap up our business aspect of our meeting. We need to approve our minutes from last meeting. They're on the tables. If you wouldn't mind looking them over, if you were here last meeting. And is there anyone here from the Choice Fair Committee? Okay, I put those dates on the agenda so that everyone knows. There might be requests for volunteers coming soon. Ken, do you want to give a treasurer's report before we approve the minutes?
Sure. So far we've had about $15,200 in donations come in. Our goal is $35,000, so we're right in that. Right in 35-36% range, somewhere in there. And the amounts this year have been the highest since I've been on board. We had like 2 $500 checks, 150 and 100. So the donations have been great. Also, if you haven't donated yet, there's several different ways you can do it, either via check. Gia's been nice enough to bring in a swipe card. If you want to do it via credit card, you can do that. And also through PayPal, there's an account that's been set up for that. And we always also, either yourself or a spouse or significant other, through their employer, a lot of them have matching programs. So if your employer does that, I would encourage you to look into that and see if you can get them to match your donations. Also, just a point of business, we need to present our budget. It's actually, you guys all should have gotten an email with this sheet basically attached to it. And so just from a presentation perspective, we have a $35,000 budget. $10,500 of that is allocated towards classroom supplies and equipment, $7,000 toward professional development, $10,800 towards technology, $5,250 towards academic competitions and exams, and $1,450 towards KMag costs, so admin type items. So I just wanted to let everybody know that's officially the budget that we're working from. So that's it.
And, okay, thanks. And on the employee matches, what we found is since KMag, since we're now our own 501c3 nonprofit corporation, we don't tend to be set up in an employer's matching program. It needs to have, data about us, our tax ID number, our name, things like that, a contact person. So, and what tends to be set up is what was there before, which is Keeling Magnet through Austin Community Foundation. So that would need to be changed. We need to get ourselves set up in companies. So if you work for a company and need the matching information to get that set up, Ken can email it to you. Ken's email is on the KMag page of the KeelingHornets.org website. So just email him and he can shoot you the information and get us set up. So we appreciate anyone who takes the time to do that. It makes a big difference. And as far as the co-chairs report, there's not much to report. I'll get you out of here. We haven't had too many funding requests so far, and I'm listing all of those on our agenda now. All we had last time was $40 for some DNA kits for forensic science. So
beyond that too, the professional development line item that we have, we usually send representatives from one of the departments. The English department is going this year, and we just had about $4,000 of expenses for that. It hasn't happened yet, but it's the airfare and the registration fees for it. So we have cut checks for roughly $4,000 for that, but it's something that was approved prior to the last meeting. So
right, the English department's very excited. They're going soon. They're going in just a few weeks. And they are really, really excited. And we expect to have them back to tell us about what they did at one of our next meetings. So stay tuned for that. Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
The date of the book report thing, your book reading, whatever, book club is wrong. Book thing.
Yes, that's right. Good. That's a correction. So did I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Second? Okay, we will now correct the minutes to reflect that the book club meeting is the next meeting, not this meeting. Any other corrections, discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. All opposed, nay. The minutes are approved and we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
If you guys haven't signed in on the sign-in sheet, if you would do that, that would be great.
It's right up here.